So we're all going to gather together for the service. First of all, want to credit Alyssa Coffey for the work that she did. Alyssa has been interning with me this summer, and so this is her final project. She's given 2 wonderful Divrei Torah over the course of the summer, and then I told her about this Geniza, and I thought, well, this would be really a cool project to do together. And so Alyssa's been doing research on Geniza. She's going to read this part, explaining what this is all about. We have a few other rituals to do, and when I told Marilyn Price about this, she said she had a wonderful story about an old Siddur, and so I thought that would be perfect for us to do this together. And I'm really delighted that Rabbi Mema Spoler is here, and that TJM will probably be contributing to our Geniza at some point as well. So we're going to gather together. Let's come close here. All the people are leading here too, so we can also in the filming it'll be a little bit nicer. We're trying to look like we're in construction site, but also look like here. Great. So we begin singing together. Al Shlosha Devarim, Al Shlosha Devarim, Al Shlosha Devarim, Ha'olam Boneh. Al Shlosha Devarim, Al Shlosha Devarim, Al Shlosha Devarim, Ha'olam Boneh. Al HaTorah ve'al Avodah ve'al Gemilut Hasadim. Al HaTorah ve'al Avodah ve'al Gemilut Hasadim.
So I wanted to open this by giving some quick background on what a Geniza is and why it's important to us at Beth Emet, the concept of a Geniza, and also that we're opening this new Geniza today. So the song that we just sang, Al Shlosha Devarim, comes from Pirkei Avot, and it says the world stands upon 3 things: on the Torah, on worship, on avodah, and on acts of loving kindness. So on the Torah, this is both the study of Torah and the respect that we show for physical Torah's world. And on avodah, on worship and service, this is how we'll come together as a community to pray and for what we do with our sacred books and objects. And for Gemilut Hasadim, on acts of loving kindness, this is both in the ways that we treat others, that we treat ourselves, and that we show respect for our holy objects. And so the concept of a Geniza really touches on all 3 of these elements. A Geniza is a burial place for Jewish texts and ritual objects which are no longer suitable for use. In the Talmud, we learned that any item which contains one of the Hebrew names of God, of which of course there are many, must be buried after use. And this includes items like old books and Siddurim and old Torah scrolls. But the rabbis in the Talmud also said that any item which is used in association with something containing God's name must also be buried. They called them articles of holiness. And this broader category includes things like old Torah scroll covers and mezuzot, or old talitot, which we're going to be burying one today, just to name a few examples. So burying these items demonstrates that their holiness doesn't evaporate as soon as we can't use them anymore, regardless of whether or not they contain God's name directly. So burial in a Geniza is a way to assert that these books and items and the memories and the learning that we use them for and that we associate with them are so special that we can't throw them away. So in addition to demonstrating the centrality of text and of study to Judaism, another aim of a Geniza is to preserve a community's history by treating its retired books and objects with respect. Geniza preserve the ritual and intellectual history of the Jewish community as a whole. One of the books that I read to prepare for this was about the Geniza in Cairo, where they found in the Cairo synagogue hundreds of years worth of documents that I think they're still researching, right? Yeah, still today they're researching. But a Geniza, in a typical sense, is not a living archive. It doesn't contain materials that you might want to reference regularly, like the birth and death records of a synagogue, or old but still usable additions of a siddur. Those you can keep above ground for those reference purposes. So the natural question is, what is the value of holding on to these things if we can't use them, and we can't see them, and we can't go back and look at them whenever we want? Once they're in the ground, they're more or less there for good. And so perhaps there's value, I would argue, in knowing that they are still here. Think about for a moment how many people might have used their fingers to follow along the same words on the same page in the same siddur. Think about all the decades that could have passed while that siddur was in use in this building. And so many people have done that the spine of that siddur has fallen apart from use. And if Talmud Torah and Avodah, Torah study and worship, are such important mitzvot, then being able to open a Geniza is the sign that we're doing it well. We should celebrate that. And so at this moment, we're literally standing at the crossroads of Beth Emet's history and Beth Emet's future. We've had this construction project for several months, and the opening of this Geniza is inherently centered upon history, but it's also an inauguration of this new sanctuary and this new building, which is still in the works, but it's looking towards the future. And so it's fitting that our Geniza is located beneath the sanctuary. So today we will be burying several old books and a torn talit as symbols for all the items that will soon fill the Geniza. Even though they're no longer in use, they're still holy. So may the opening of this Geniza, which will soon hold our congregation's history, continue to inspire more years of Torah study and worship.
Amen.
Amen.
Now Marilyn has a story to share with us as we prepare for our burial of objects.
Yeah, this particular story has many touch points with the Geniza project. Thank you, that was beautiful. So I first told it on Ellis Island to 900 teenagers at a nifty retreat, and it was amazing. And the acoustics here are way better than they were then. So I'd like to tell it to you, and I want you to think deep about it, because this is a story that affects all of us in our family history and the history we're building together. It was written by David Einhorn, who came to the States in the early 1900s, and he worked for the Daily Forward. He was a Yiddishist, and then he wrote much history on Judaism, and he also wrote this beautiful little book, which I will not put in there, called The Seventh Candle, which is probably impossible to find. This story is called The Old Siddur, and it goes like this. There was once a young woman who was given on her wedding day in Russia, about 100 years ago, the old family Siddur. And in the old family Siddur, in the very center, there was all the family history, the names of those who've been born, and the names of those who had died, and the marriage and a variety of other things that were always. It was in the very center of the Siddur. It was treasured and given down from family to family. Early on in the 20th century, she left for America to join her husband, who was already there. And when she got there, they settled, as did many of us, in the Lower East Side. In the Lower East Side, they lived as they did then, and I don't know them, so I'm not sure how they did. Her name was Rachel Rabinowitz, and she had 3 sons. And they prospered in a good way. Not the richest people, but enough to enjoy being an American and enough to raise their boys well, so well, in fact, that they went off to school and married and lived in various parts of the United States. And the book, still treasured by Rachel Rabinowitz, had entries in it all through her life. Her husband died, and soon she was left alone in a little apartment in the Lower East Side, where her friends took care of her as her family had gone. She got older and frailer, and then one day she died a peaceful and calm death, and her possessions were cleared out by the landlord and her friends and put out in the alley. Among the possessions was the old Siddur. The Siddur by this time had lost its cover, it had lost its golden letters, it had lost its spine, but it had the family history inside of it. The books were left in the alleyway. It was a cold night, and the boys in the neighborhood, who we then called bums, had gathered around and were playing. And they built a fire in one of the old garbage cans and said, "Don't worry, we'll be warm in a long time. We just need more paper." And one of them reached over and took the old books, all of them, and started to toss them towards the garbage can that was burning. And one of the boys in the crowd noticed that that book had Hebrew letters, and he was a Jewish boy. And he said, "Don't throw that one in. That's our holy book. I'll take it to the synagogue." And it went. Now, in the meantime, the book heaved a huge sigh of relief because it was saved from the fire. And that doesn't often happen. And it was put away in the old, dusty library of the synagogue that Rachel Rabinowitz had frequented and where everyone knew her. No one knew the book had been put on the shelves, and there the book sat. The minute the book was put on the shelf, a Gemara, which happened to be sitting next to it, said, "Oh, you escaped from the fire." And the Siddur said, "How did you know that?" And the Gemara said, "Many of us came here that way." But you can breathe a sigh of relief because you're safe here. And so the old Siddur took a big sigh and began to think of the places it had been and the stories inside of it and the woman who had held it in her hands. Time passed. Nothing much happened until one day a limousine pulled up in front of a little synagogue in the shtetl, and out came a very fancy gentleman with a suit and a tie, and he walked inside, and the shaman said, "Excuse me, can I help you?" And he said, "My grandmother, Rachel Rabinowitz, she lived in this neighborhood, and I've heard that the old family Siddur with all of our history might be in this synagogue. For who would have thrown such a thing out?" Now, he had been there a long time, the shaman, but he had not seen any books brought in because the young boy had put it on the shelf all by himself. He said, "We all knew her. She was wonderful, and we took care of her, but I don't remember, but feel free to look in the library." And so he did. The minute that the old Siddur heard Rachel Rabinowitz's name, that Siddur got so excited she began to quiver. She said, my owner's grandson is here." And with that, she got so excited that she literally popped off the shelf and landed at his feet. He looked down, he picked it up, he said, "This was my grandmother's," and carefully opened it up. The shaman said to him, "Can you read this language?" He said, "Oh, yes." He said, "I'm a scholar of languages, and Hebrew is my specialty." So he took the old Siddur, saved from the fire, with all the family history, and he brought it back. And the story goes that that Siddur sits on the shelf in a very fine university, re-gilded, re-spined, and is living and recording happily ever after. And in the very, very middle, the last entry reads like this: "Today, to me, the grandson of Rachel Rabinowitz, was born a daughter, and I named her Rachel."
The story about the old Siddur reminds us that we do everything we can to retain our history. And if a book can be given a new spine and a new life, we want to treasure it and to preserve it in that way. Each and every year we have a scribe who comes in to look at our Torah scrolls, for example, and to tell us whether or not our Torah scrolls have letters that are missing, and we try to fix them and we preserve them. But there are some times when our ritual objects and our holy books, they can't be preserved anymore, and we don't have a place for them on our shelves or in the ark, but we want to keep a place for them in our heart. And so the Geniza gives us that opportunity, that we still have those with us. And our Geniza here at Beth Emet, which is going to be right underneath our ramp leading up to the Bima, such a beautiful and important spot for us. And every time we look over here and look at the ramp, we'll know that our history is here with us. So even though we can't see it, it will be in our hearts. The word Geniza means something that which is hidden. But even though we won't see it, we know that we will be able to feel it right here with us. And so we now ritually are going to take a few items here. We do have a memorial plaque and a pair of tefillin that can't be used anymore. And also, if you have a talit that is torn and can't be used for prayer, and an old siddur that can't be used anymore. And we're We take these items, place them into a bag. We have a very special procedure here.
So you just take the polish, you don't, the polish bag is not a ritual object in and of itself, oh,
Right.
Okay.
So we can keep this, we can take this towel bag can be used, it's a nice bag.
Article.
Article, right, it's already right, can be, but this one is a usable one, so we're gonna keep that out. I'll leave this torn.
And the baking soda is to make sure that you don't smell the smell, as it's been there for many years, so that was a concern of ours. The fire would not be happy.
Place this here for, someone will be able to take it down the ladder that's here, but we need to do so safely, so we'll just put it next to the Geniza, as we're now gonna gather together. And the final ritual is to say what's known as Kaddish de Rabbanan. We have Kaddish prayer serves many purposes in our worship. Sometimes it's a marker between prayers. Sometimes there's what we call the full Kaddish, in which we ask God to accept our prayers. Of course, people know about the mourner's Kaddish, in which we remember our loved ones. The Kaddish de Rabbanan is a prayer that reminds us of the debt we owe to our teachers and to all the students of Torah and all the time and effort they've spent in studying Torah. And so that's a special paragraph that is added here, Rabbanan meaning our teachers. And as we bury holy objects, we do so with great respect for the learning and the worship that were done with those objects. So we continue together now in the Kaddish de Rabbanan, and you'll notice to get to that paragraph, it's kind of a long one here. We'll take it a little more slowly because there are going to be some words here that are a little unfamiliar, but we'll get through it all together. Yitzgadal, Yitzgadash, Merah, Be'omar, Divra, Ferute, Yamliv, Malkute, V'chayechod, V'yomechod, V'chaye, V'chol Beit Yisrael, Ha'agala, V'zman Karim, V'imru, Amen. Yehesh Me'rava, Borach, Le'lam, Me'amaya, Yitbarach, V'yishtabach, V'yitbar, V'yitromam, V'yitnaseh, V'yitadar, V'yitaleh, V'yitalal, Shmei, V'kushav, V'yitu, Le'lam, V'nikol, V'yirchatav, V'shiratav, Tushachatav, V'nechmatav, Damiram, V'yomam, V'yimru, Amen. Al Yisrael, V'al Rabbanan, V'al Talmidehon, V'al Kol Talmidehon, V'al Kol Man Da'asin Be'oraita, Di V'atra, Ade V'di V'chol Atar Atar, Ehe Lahon L'chol, Shlama Rava, China V'chista V'rara Amin, V'chayin Arichin, V'zonah, V'bicha, V'forchana, Min Kodom Abuhon, Di V'shmaya, V'imru Amen. Yehe Shlama Rava V'yishmaya, V'chayin Alei V'chol Yisrael, V'imru Amen. Oseh Shalom V'romav, Uyaseh Shalom, Aleinu Ve'al Kol Yisrael, V'al Kol Yoshvei Tevel, V'imru Amen. Amen. Our Geniza is now consecrated for holy use. Thank you.